James Turner leaned back in his plush leather chair, the warm glow of the city skyline outside his penthouse window casting a soft light across his office. He had built a successful empire, a multi-million-dollar technology company that had revolutionized how people interacted with the digital world. Yet, as he surveyed the glimmering streets of New York, a profound sense of emptiness enveloped him. The clatter of heels on the polished floor and the soft murmur of his assistant in the background felt distant, almost muffled, as if he were observing his life from behind a glass wall. "Mr. Turner, are you ready for your meeting?" His assistant Claire peered in cautiously. Her voice broke through his reverie, but it didn't stir any excitement within him. "Just give me a moment, Claire," James replied, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He watched as she nodded and retreated, leaving him alone once more. He had everything a man could desire: wealth, status, and a seemingly endless parade of beautiful women vying for his attention. Yet it was precisely this superficiality that suffocated him. Each encounter felt transactional, a dance of pretense where affection was bartered for luxury. They were drawn to his money, not to him. He craved something real, something that transcended the facades that everyone seemed to wear. "What if I could find someone who truly sees me?" he mused aloud, his voice echoing softly against the walls. The thought sparked an idea that danced tantalizingly at the edge of his consciousness. A plan that was as outrageous as it was exhilarating began to take shape in his mind. The following day, he wandered through the bustling streets of Manhattan, a world that felt both familiar and foreign. He stopped at a thrift store, a small, unassuming shop nestled between high-end boutiques. The bell above the door jingled as he entered, its sound a stark contrast to the silence that had settled over his heart. James sifted through the racks of clothes, his fingers brushing against worn fabrics and faded colors. He picked out an oversized jacket with frayed edges, a pair of tattered jeans, and an old beanie that smelled faintly of must. He also purchased a wig, a scraggly mess of brown hair that would help him blend into the shadows of the city. As he stood in front of the mirror in the store's small changing room, he marveled at his reflection. The polished businessman was gone, replaced by a disheveled man who looked like he had faced the harsh realities of life. Jake, he decided. That would be his name. With his transformation complete, James stepped outside into the chaos of the street, his heart pounding with a mix of exhilaration and fear. He felt alive in a way he hadn't in years. He was no longer James Turner, the millionaire. He was Jake, an ordinary man with no expectations and no burdens. He wandered through the city, observing the world from a different perspective, one that was raw and unfiltered. As the days passed, Jake found himself drawn to the local beauty pageant auditions. He had heard whispers of the event, the glitz and glamour that surrounded it, but he was more intrigued by the women who participated, their dreams, their stories, their struggles. James had always believed that true beauty lay beyond appearances, and here was an opportunity to witness it firsthand. On the day of the auditions, Jake arrived early, the sunlight filtering through the trees and casting playful shadows on the ground. He watched as contestants began to gather, each one a tapestry of hopes and aspirations. The air was thick with nervous energy, and Jake felt a flicker of empathy for them. These women were not just faces in the crowd. They were warriors in their own right, fighting for a chance to be seen and heard. "Did you hear about last year's winner?" a contestant asked her friend nearby. "She got a scholarship to a prestigious university. It changed her life." "I know," the friend replied, her voice tinged with awe. "That's why I'm here. I need this opportunity. My family is counting on me." Jake leaned closer, absorbing their conversations, feeling a connection to their dreams. He could sense the determination in their voices, the fire that ignited their spirits. As he continued to listen, he caught sight of a woman who stood apart from the rest. Her name was Lisa Monroe, and she exuded a raw authenticity that captivated him instantly. Lisa was petite with long, wavy hair that framed her face beautifully. Her eyes sparkled with passion, but there was also a hint of vulnerability that tugged at Jake's heart. He watched as she practiced her walk, her brow furrowing in concentration. The world around her faded, and it was clear that she was lost in her own thoughts. "Hey, you've got this!" Jake called out impulsively, stepping closer. The other contestants turned to stare, their expressions a mix of surprise and curiosity. Lisa looked up, startled. "Thanks, I'm just trying to nail this walk," she replied, a shy smile breaking through her initial surprise. "Looks good to me," Jake said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. "Just remember to own it. You're not just walking, you're telling a story." "Wow, that's deep," she chuckled, a hint of warmth in her voice. "What's your story?" Jake hesitated, caught off guard by her directness. I'm just, you know, a guy trying to find his way," he replied, choosing his words carefully. "What about you? What brings you here?" Lisa took a deep breath, her expression turning serious. "I've always wanted to be in a pageant. My mom used to compete, and it's been a dream of mine since I was little. But life hasn't been easy. I'm hoping to win this and get a scholarship to help my family." His heart ached at her honesty. "That's really brave of you," Jake said, his voice thick with admiration. "You're going to succeed. I can feel it." "Thank you," she said, her eyes glistening with gratitude. "It means a lot to hear that from someone." As they talked, Jake found himself drawn to her passion and authenticity. It was a refreshing change from the superficial connections he had experienced in his life as James Turner. Here, as Jake, he could be honest, even if it meant fabricating a part of himself. "So, what's your name?" Lisa asked, tilting her head curiously. "Jake," he replied, a grin spreading across his face. "Just Jake." "Nice to meet you, Jake," she said, extending her hand. "I hope to see you at the finals." "Count on it," he promised, feeling a warmth in his chest that he hadn't felt in years. As they parted, Jake realized that he had stumbled upon something extraordinary. Lisa's spirit ignited a spark within him, challenging him to confront the emptiness that had plagued him for so long. He was no longer just a man in disguise. He was part of something bigger, a journey toward authenticity, connection, and perhaps even love. With each passing moment, the world around him faded away, and all he could think about was the genuine connection he had just made. Little did he know, this was only the beginning of a story that would force him to confront his deepest fears and desires, leading him down a path he had never imagined. As the days of the pageant progressed, James, now living as Jake, found himself enveloped in an unexpected camaraderie with the contestants. Each day brought new rehearsals, interviews, and moments. A vulnerability that revealed not only their ambitions, but also the weight of their struggles. The glitzy facade of the pageant was slowly peeling away, exposing the raw reality of the women behind the gowns. One afternoon, they gathered in a sunlit courtyard for a group workshop focused on public speaking. As they practiced their speeches, James listened intently, absorbing their stories like a sponge. The passion and determination in their voices were palpable, igniting something within him he hadn't anticipated. He sat cross-legged on the grass, surrounded by the contestants who were all sharing their dreams and aspirations. "Okay, everyone, let's take it from the top," called Angela, the pageant director, her voice sharp and commanding. "Remember to project your voice and connect with your audience." As one contestant after another stepped forward to deliver their carefully crafted speeches, James marveled at their bravery. When it was Lisa's turn, he felt a flutter of anticipation. She stood up, her eyes sparkling with a mix of nerves and excitement. "Hi, I'm Lisa Monroe, and I want to inspire young girls to believe in themselves," she began, her voice steady but soft. "Growing up, I faced a lot of challenges. My family struggled financially, and I often felt like I didn't belong. But I learned that true beauty comes from within. It's about resilience, kindness, and the courage to dream." James leaned forward, captivated. He could see the light in her eyes, the fire that fueled her ambition. As she continued, he felt an inexplicable connection to her words. "That's why I'm here," she said, her voice gaining strength. "I want to show everyone that no matter where you come from, you can achieve your dreams if you work hard enough." A round of applause erupted from the group, and James joined in, clapping fervently. As Lisa returned to her spot, she caught his gaze, and they shared a moment, an unspoken understanding that transcended their circumstances. "Jake, that was amazing," Lisa said, a beaming smile lighting her face. "You really connect with the audience?" James chuckled, feeling his cheeks heat under the scruffy beard he had grown for his disguise. I just try to tell it like it is. You, on the other hand, have a gift. You're going to knock them dead out there. Days turned into nights, and the laughter, the tears, and the late-night talks deepened their bond. They confided in each other about their fears, their hopes, and the pressure they felt. One evening, they found themselves sitting on the steps of the venue, the stars twinkling above them, like diamonds scattered across a velvet sky. "Jake," Lisa began, her voice barely above a whisper, "what if I don't win? What if I'm not enough?" James turned to her, his heart aching at the vulnerability in her eyes. "You are enough, Lisa. You're more than enough. Winning a title doesn't define you. You're strong, talented, and passionate. Those things matter far more than a crown." "But what if I fail?" she pressed, her brow furrowed in worry. "I've invested so much in this. My family is counting on me." James felt a pang of guilt stab at him, knowing that he had entered this competition under false pretenses. "You won't fail," he said firmly, squeezing her hand. "And even if you don't walk away with the crown, you've already won by stepping out of your comfort zone. That's a victory in itself." For a moment, they sat in silence, the weight of their conversations lingering in the air. James found himself lost in thought, considering the complexity of his feelings for Lisa. He had come into this competition with a singular goal, to find a genuine connection away from his life of wealth. Yet somewhere along the way, he had fallen for the very person he was trying to understand. As the pageant night loomed closer, James's internal conflict grew. He watched Lisa train tirelessly, her determination unwavering. He admired her resilience, but with every passing day, the burden of his deception loomed larger. The night before the pageant, the contestants gathered for a final rehearsal, excitement buzzing in the air like electricity. The venue was transformed into a breathtaking spectacle, adorned with lights and decorations that shimmered and sparkled. James felt a mix of exhilaration and dread, knowing that the moment of truth was approaching. "Let's do this," Lisa exclaimed, her energy infectious. "Tomorrow is our day." James smiled at her enthusiasm, but inside he wrestled with his conscience. He wanted to support her, to see her succeed, but at what cost? Each compliment he offered, each moment they shared, felt like a thread binding him tighter to the web of lies he had spun. As the rehearsal concluded, they all shared laughter and excitement, but James's heart was heavy. When everyone began to disperse, he caught Lisa's arm gently. "Hey, can we talk for a minute?" She turned, her expression shifting from joy to curiosity. "Of course. What's on your mind?" James took a deep breath, the weight of his secret pressing down on him. I want you to know how much I admire you. You've worked so hard for this, and it's been amazing to watch you." "Thanks, Jake. That means a lot," she replied, her eyes sparkling in the soft light. "But I also need to be honest with you," he continued, the words tumbling out before he could stop them. "I'm not just here as a contestant. I came into this competition under false pretenses. I'm not who you think I am." Lisa's smile faded, her brow furrowing in confusion. "What do you mean?" "I've been pretending to be someone I'm not," he admitted, his heart racing. "I'm actually James Turner. I came here to find something real, something beyond my wealth. But I didn't expect to connect with you like this." Shock washed over Lisa's face, her mouth opening slightly as she processed his confession. "You're James Turner? But why?" "I thought that if I came in disguise, I could find someone who'd love me for who I am, not for my money or status," he explained, desperation creeping into his voice. "I didn't plan on falling for you, Lisa. I didn't know it would feel this real." For a moment they stood in silence, the weight of his revelation hanging heavily between them. Lisa's expression shifted from shock to disappointment, and James felt a stab of regret. "Why didn't you just be honest with me from the start?" she finally asked, her voice trembling. "I was scared," he admitted, his heart racing. "Scared that you wouldn't want to know me if you knew the truth." Lisa took a step back, the light fading from her eyes as she processed his words. "I need time to think, Jake. This is a lot." As she walked away, James felt a sense of dread wash over him. He had achieved what he set out to do. He had found a connection with someone genuine, but in that moment, he felt the walls closing in, the weight of his deception threatening to crush him. The pageant was a mere day away, and he was left grappling with the consequences of his choices, unsure of how to mend the rift he had created between them. The night of the pageant had finally arrived, and the atmosphere was electric. The grand auditorium buzzed with excitement as contestants prepared backstage, adjusting their gowns and practicing their smiles. James, still disguised as Jake, stood at the edge of the stage, feeling both a sense of pride and a knot of anxiety in his stomach. He watched as Lisa Monroe, the woman who had captured his heart, adjusted her hair in front of the mirror, her eyes sparkling with determination. "Jake, can you believe it?" Lisa exclaimed, turning to him, her face glowing with enthusiasm. "This is it, the moment we've all worked so hard for." James nodded, forcing a smile. "You're going to be amazing out there, Lisa. Just remember to breathe and enjoy it. You've got this." "Thanks, Jake," she replied, her voice filled with appreciation. "I don't know what I would do without you. You've been such a great support." As she spoke, James felt a pang of guilt wash over him. He wanted to tell her the truth, to reveal his real identity and the reasons behind his deception, but he couldn't bring himself to ruin this moment for her. He watched her with admiration, her passion lighting up the room. She was everything he had been searching for. Not just beauty, but a depth of character that resonated with his own hidden struggles. The lights dimmed, and the announcer's voice boomed through the auditorium. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the annual Miss Evergreen pageant. Tonight, our contestants will dazzle you with their grace, poise, and talent. Let's meet our wonderful contestants." James's heart raced as he listened to the crowd cheer for the contestants. He clutched the edge of the curtain, his mind racing with thoughts of what was at stake. Winning the pageant meant more than just a crown. It represented a chance for Lisa to escape her financial struggles, a dream she had fought so hard to achieve. One by one, the contestants stepped into the spotlight, showcasing their talents and answering questions with confidence. As Lisa took her turn, her voice resonated through the auditorium. "If I could change one thing about the world, it would be to promote kindness over competition. We all have dreams, but we can't forget to lift each other as we climb." The audience erupted in applause, and James felt a surge of pride swell within him. She was right. This was about more than just winning. It was about connection, support, and understanding. Yet as the competition progressed, he learned of a twist that would change everything. The winner of the pageant would not only receive the coveted crown, but also a lucrative sponsorship deal that could transform their life. "Did you hear that, Jake?" Lisa said breathlessly as she returned backstage, her eyes wide with disbelief. "This could mean everything for me and my family." James nodded, his heart sinking. The stakes had just been raised, and the pressure on Lisa grew heavier. He could see the determination etched on her face, but he also sensed the weight of her fears. "You have to focus on doing your best, Lisa. No matter the outcome, you've already touched so many lives with your story." "Thanks, Jake. You always know what to say," she replied, her smile fading slightly as she glanced back toward the stage. "But what if I'm not enough? What if I fail?" James stepped closer, wanting to reassure her. "You are more than enough. You've already shown incredible strength, and that's what truly matters. Just be yourself out there." With each passing moment, James felt the conflict within him intensify. He had come to care for Lisa deeply, and watching her chase her. Dreams made him realize how important it was for her to succeed. But his deception loomed like a dark cloud, ready to burst at any moment. As the pageant reached its climax, the final contestants took their places on stage. The announcer's voice rang out again. "And now, for the moment you've all been waiting for, the crowning of Miss Evergreen." The audience erupted in cheers and applause as the three finalists stood together. James felt his heart pounding in his chest. He stood at the edge of the stage, cheering for Lisa along with the rest of the audience. "Come on, Lisa, you can do it!" he shouted, his voice barely audible over the cacophony. The announcer continued, "And the title of Miss Evergreen goes to Lisa Monroe." Time seemed to freeze as Lisa's eyes widened in disbelief. The spotlight illuminated her face as she stepped forward, tears of joy streaming down her cheeks. "Oh my God, I can't believe it," she exclaimed, her voice trembling. James's heart swelled with pride as he clapped and cheered for her. He could see the joy radiating from her, a mixture of disbelief and elation. The crown was placed upon her head, and she looked like a vision of dreams realized. The audience stood in thunderous applause, but amidst the celebration, a voice inside James urged him to act. He watched as Lisa scanned the crowd, her gaze searching for familiar faces, for someone to share this monumental moment with. Her eyes sparkled with happiness, but as they moved through the audience, they passed over James without recognition. He felt a rush of desperation. He couldn't let this moment slip away without telling her the truth. "Lisa," he called out, taking a step forward, but the crowd's cheers drowned out his voice. He took a breath, steeling himself. If he waited any longer, he might lose his chance forever. He pushed through the throng of people, determined to reach her. As she accepted congratulations from the other contestants and audience members, he finally stood in front of her, his heart racing. "Lisa," he said, breathless and earnest, "I need to talk to you. It's important." She turned, her eyes still bright with joy, but confusion washed over her face. "Jake, what's wrong?" He took a deep breath, the weight of his secret pressing heavily on his chest. "I can't let this moment pass without telling you the truth. I'm not who you think I am." Her smile faltered, and the laughter around them seemed to fade. "What do you mean?" "I'm James Turner," he said, his voice steady despite the turmoil inside him. "I've been pretending to be someone else to get close to you. I wanted to know who you really are, without the influence of my wealth." The crowd around them began to quiet down, sensing the tension. Lisa's expression shifted from confusion to disbelief, and then to hurt. You're James Turner? The millionaire?" James nodded, feeling the weight of her gaze pierce through him. "I know it sounds crazy, but I've come to care for you, Lisa. I wanted to understand the struggles you face. I wanted to see the real you." She stepped back, her breath hitching in her throat. "Why would you do this? Why lie to me?" "I thought that if I approached you as Jake, you would see me for who I am, not just my money. I wanted to find someone genuine, someone who could love me for me." "But I trusted you," she exclaimed, her voice shaking. "You were my friend, Jackie. How could you betray that?" The pain in her voice hit him like a punch to the gut. "I'm sorry, Lisa. I never meant to hurt you. You just wanted to play a game?" She interrupted, her expression a mix of anger and betrayal. "You think this is a joke?" "No, it's not a joke. I care about you more than you know," he pleaded, desperation creeping into his voice. "You're incredible, and I wanted to be part of your life, to support you. I thought maybe you could love me for who I really am." Lisa's eyes filled with tears as she shook her head. "You've taken everything away from this moment. I can't believe you would do this to me, especially tonight." James felt the walls closing in around him, the reality of his actions crashing down like a wave. He had never intended to hurt her, but now standing there, he realized he might have ruined everything. The joy of her victory felt distant as he witnessed the pain etched on her face, and he knew he had to find a way to make her understand. "Please, just give me a chance to explain," he implored, reaching out to her, but she stepped back, creating distance between them. "I need time, Jake. I can't deal with this right now," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. James watched helplessly as she turned away, the celebration continuing around them, but all he could feel was the crushing weight of his own mistakes. He had entered this pageant hoping to find love, but instead he had created a rift that could shatter everything he had come to cherish. As Lisa disappeared into the crowd, he realized that the true path to understanding and connection was fraught with risks he had never anticipated, risks that now left him standing alone in the shadows of the stage. James stood outside the grand venue where the pageant had taken place, his heart racing as he adjusted his disguise one last time. The cheers and applause for Lisa still echoed in his ears, a bittersweet reminder of the moment he had just witnessed. The crowd had erupted when she was crowned, and he had felt an overwhelming sense of pride mingled with guilt. It was time to confront Lisa, to shed the persona of Jake and reveal the truth. Taking a deep breath, he summoned the courage to approach her. He spotted her standing apart from the crowd, her radiant smile now dim by a cloud of confusion. She was surrounded by a few fellow contestants, but they seemed to be giving her space, sensing the shift in her mood. James felt a pang of regret as he remembered the excitement in her eyes when she spoke about her dreams. That same light was now overshadowed by disbelief and betrayal. "Lisa," he called, his voice steady despite the turmoil inside him. She turned, her expression shifting from surprise to wariness as she recognized him. "Jake," she replied, her tone a mix of shock and confrontation. "What are you doing here?" James took a step closer, his heart pounding. "I need to talk to you. It's important." The other contestants began to disperse, sensing the tension in the air, leaving only Lisa and James in the dimming light of the venue's exterior. "What could you possibly have to say that would make this any better?" She shot back, crossing her arms defensively. "You lied to me. You pretended to be someone you're not. How can I trust anything you say now?" "I know I deceived you," he admitted, his voice earnest, "but I need you to understand why I did it. I was searching for something real, something genuine, and I thought—" He hesitated, searching for the right words. "I thought if I came in as someone ordinary, I could see the world through a different lens. I never expected to fall for you." Lisa's eyes narrowed, her emotions swirling like a tempest. "You fell for me while deceiving me. How does that make sense? You didn't just deceive me about your identity, you manipulated my feelings. I thought we had something special." "We did," he insisted, reaching out, but she stepped back, avoiding his touch. "What I felt for you was real, Lisa. I didn't mean to hurt you. I wanted to know you without the influence of my wealth, my status. I wanted to understand your struggles, your passions. And I did. You inspired me." "Inspired you?" she echoed incredulously, her voice rising. "You think pretending to be homeless is some sort of inspiration? You used my dreams as a means to fulfill your own twisted quest for authenticity." James felt a wave of shame wash over him, her words striking him like a physical blow. "I see that now. I was selfish. I thought that by being someone else, I could find a connection that was deeper than surface-level beauty. But I didn't mean to hurt you. I wanted to help you, to be there for you." "Help me," she scoffed, shaking her head. "By lying to me? By living a lie? You have no idea what I've sacrificed to be here. You have no idea what this win means to me. And you just waltz in as Jake, pretending to understand it all?" "Please, just listen," he pleaded, desperation creeping into his voice. "I didn't want to hurt you. I fell for you because you're strong, passionate, and real. You have a fire in you that I admire, something I've been searching for. I thought if I could just show you who I really am, you'd see that I'm more than just my money." Lisa's expression softened for a fleeting moment, but it quickly hardened again. "You think it's that easy? That you can just strip away your disguise and everything will be okay? You don't get to just erase the hurt you caused? You've betrayed my trust." "I know I have," he said, his voice dropping to a whisper. "But I'm asking for a chance to make it right. I'm not asking for your forgiveness right away. Just give me a chance to prove who I really am, outside of this charade." She took a step back, her breath trembling. "And what if I don't want to? What if I can't get past the fact that you deceived me? I need to think about what this means for me. I can't just forget that you came into my life under false pretenses." James felt his heart drop, the weight of her words crashing over him. "I understand. I'll give you space. But please, don't shut me out completely. I want to be there for you, as the real me." Lisa looked at him, a mixture of anger and hurt flashing across her face. "I don't know if I can even look at you right now. You were the one person I thought I could trust, and now I feel like I'm back at square one, alone and betrayed." "Just think about it," he urged gently, his heart aching at the pain he had caused. "I'll be waiting. I'll prove to you that I'm not the man you think I am. I care about you, more than you know." With that, she turned sharply, walking away from him, her shoulders tense. James watched her go, an overwhelming sense of loss filling the space where hope had once resided. The night air was heavy with the scent of rain as James stood alone, the sounds of celebration fading into the distance. He felt as if he were standing at the precipice of a chasm, the connection they had shared now feeling like a distant memory. He had entered the pageant to find authenticity, but in his quest for truth, he had created a labyrinth of lies that now threatened to swallow him whole. As he turned to leave, a deep sense of regret loomed over him. He could only hope that Lisa would find it in her heart to forgive him, to see beyond the deception and recognize the feelings that had blossomed amidst the chaos. But for now, all he could do was walk away, leaving behind the woman who had challenged him to look deeper, to delve into the meaning of love and connection. James knew that he had a long journey ahead of him, one that would require him to confront not only his own shortcomings, but also the reality of his choices. The glitz and glamour of the pageant had faded, but the lessons learned remained etched in his heart, a reminder of the price of deception and the value of authenticity. In the days following the pageant, James Turner found himself wandering through the streets of his city, a world he had only pretended to inhabit. The echoes of laughter and applause from the night of the competition still rang in his ears, but they were tinged with a bittersweet aftertaste. Disguised as Jake, he had experienced a reality far removed from his opulent lifestyle, and now, back in his mansion, he felt an unexpected emptiness. Sitting in his extravagant study, adorned with artworks and expensive furniture, James leaned back in his chair, his fingers intertwined behind his head. He stared out the window at the bustling streets below, each passerby representing a life he had only glimpsed from the shadows. He thought of Lisa Monroe, her vibrant spirit and unwavering determination igniting something within him that he hadn't felt in years. His heart raced at the memory of her smile, the way her eyes sparkled when she spoke about her dreams. "I went into this to find someone real," he muttered to himself, the words hanging heavy in the air. But in the end, I was the one who needed to be real. He had set out to discover authenticity, but had only succeeded in deceiving the one person who had shown him a glimpse of it. His thoughts drifted back to their conversations, the vulnerability they had shared. He remembered her voice, laced with fear and hope, as she confided in him about her struggles. "What if I fail? What if I let my family down?" she had asked, her eyes wide with uncertainty. James had wanted to reach out, to comfort her, but he had remained in the shadows, a mere spectator to her dreams. As he paced the room, he realized that the wealth he had accumulated meant nothing compared to the connection he felt with Lisa. True wealth, he pondered, is not in the money or the power. It's in love, in authenticity, in being seen for who you are. The thought struck him with a sense of clarity, and he knew he had to find a way to make things right. Meanwhile, Lisa Monroe was grappling with her own demons. The coronation as the pageant winner had thrust her into a whirlwind of attention and expectations. She stood in her modest apartment, staring at herself in the mirror, the shimmering crown resting awkwardly on her head. The glamour of the pageant felt foreign against the backdrop of her everyday reality. She had dreamt of this moment, yet now that it was here, it felt like a burden rather than a blessing. "Is this what I wanted?" she whispered to her reflection, her brow furrowing. The sponsorship deal, the media attention, it was all overwhelming. She had worked tirelessly to reach this point, but as the initial excitement faded, doubts began to creep in. Was she ready for the spotlight? Would her newfound fame come at the cost of her true self? As she paced the room, her thoughts returned to Jake. The connection they had forged felt deeper than any friendship she had ever known, and yet it was built on a foundation of deception. How could I have let myself get so close to someone who was lying to me? She chastised herself, frustration bubbling to the surface. But he was kind. He listened. He understood me in a way no one else ever has. Just then, her phone buzzed on the table, breaking her train of thought. She picked it up, her heart racing as she saw an anonymous message flash on the screen. "You deserve to know the truth about James Turner. He's not who you think he is." The words sent a chill down her spine, and she felt a knot form in her stomach. "What truth?" she murmured, fear and anger battling within her. What could possibly be true about the man who helped me find my voice? Yet the nagging doubt lingered, and she couldn't dismiss the message as an empty threat. Was it possible that the man she had confided in, who had seen her struggles, was hiding something significant from her? The day of her first major public appearance as the pageant winner approached, and Lisa felt the pressure mounting. She had to present herself as a confident winner, but inside she was unraveling. The thought of facing the media, of being scrutinized by the public, filled her with anxiety. She needed to appear strong, but all she could think about was the weight of the crown on her head and the uncertainty in her heart. As she prepared for the event, her mind drifted back to James. Jake, she had called him, the name resonating with warmth. He had been her confidant, her friend, and despite the betrayal, a part of her still longed to see him again. She wanted to confront him, to demand answers, but another part of her feared what she might discover. What if the anonymous message was true? What if everything she had felt was just an illusion? The night of the event arrived, and the venue buzzed with energy. The lights twinkled like stars, and the audience filled the seats, eager to witness the newest beauty queen take the stage. Lisa stood backstage, her heart pounding as she listened to the cheers and applause. She peered through the curtains, catching glimpses of the crowd, faces filled with anticipation, all waiting for her to step into the spotlight. "Breathe, Lisa," she whispered to herself, trying to quell the storm inside. "You can do this." Taking a deep breath, she stepped onto the stage, the lights blinding her momentarily. The crowd erupted in applause, and she forced a smile, the adrenaline coursing through her veins. But as she looked out into the sea of faces, her gaze landed on a familiar figure standing at the back. It was James. Her heart skipped a beat, a whirlwind of emotions crashing over her. Anger, confusion, longing, they all tangled together as she locked eyes with him. In that moment, everything fell away. The cheers, the lights, the pressure. None of it mattered. All she could see was him, the man who had been both a source of comfort and a source of betrayal. James felt a rush of emotions as their eyes met. He had come to support her, to cheer her on, but now he found himself paralyzed by the weight of his own deception. He could see the conflicted emotions flickering across her face. Anger, hurt, and a hint of something deeper. He wanted to step forward, to bridge the distance between them, but the fear of further damaging her trust held him back. As Lisa stood there, the microphone in her hand, she felt the eyes of the audience on her. "This is my moment," she thought, but the thought of speaking felt suffocating. All she could think about was the man who had seen her for who she was, yet had hidden his true self from her. "Thank you all for your support," she began, her voice trembling slightly. "Winning this pageant means the world to me, but I want to remind everyone that it's not just about the crown. It's about staying true to yourself and your values." Her heart raced as she spoke, glancing back at James, who remained in the shadows, his expression unreadable. In that moment, she resolved to confront him after the event. She needed answers, and no amount of applause could drown out the questions swirling in her mind. What was the truth? Who was James Turner, really? And would she ever be able to forgive him for the deception? As the event continued, Lisa felt the weight of her decision. The promise of the spotlight loomed ahead, but so did the realization that her journey was far from over. With each passing moment, she felt a burgeoning determination to uncover the truth, not just about James, but about herself as well. In a world filled with facades, she was ready to confront the reality of her own choices, even if it meant facing the man who had turned her world upside down. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting a warm, golden hue over the bustling park where Lisa Monroe stood, her heart racing. She had spent weeks preparing for this public event, but her mind was clouded with thoughts of James, or rather, Jake. The familiar face in the crowd sent a rush of conflicting emotions through her. Anger, confusion, longing. It was all too much to process. She had tried to convince herself that she was over the betrayal, yet every glance at him reminded her of their stolen moments, the laughter they shared, and the comfort he provided amidst her chaos. As she stepped onto the stage, the microphone in her hand felt heavier than ever. The crowd applauded, but her eyes were glued to James. He stood near the back, his signature dark hair tousled, and his expression unreadable. She could still remember the way he had listened to her fears, the way he had made her feel seen. But behind that memory loomed the shadow of his deception. Her heart clenched, and she forced herself to focus on the audience before her. "Thank you all for being here today," Lisa began, her voice steady despite the turmoil within. Winning the pageant has changed my life in ways I never could have imagined. I'm here to share my story, to inspire others, and to give back to this community that has supported me." But as she spoke, she felt the weight of his gaze, a silent plea for understanding. She continued, but inside she was fighting a battle. Every smile she forced felt like a betrayal to the truth she had learned. The applause faded into a murmur, and she caught snippets of conversation around her. Whispers danced through the air, and she felt a prickling sensation on the back of her neck. Something was off. Then, as if the universe had conspired to pull her attention away from her speech, a commotion erupted in the crowd. A figure stepped forward, a tall man with a sharp suit and a smug expression that sent a shiver down her spine. He was someone she had never seen before, but the way he strode to the front suggested he was no stranger to the spotlight. "Excuse me, everyone," he called out, his voice booming across the park. The crowd quieted, curiosity piqued. "I have something important to share about your beloved winner." His eyes glinted as he turned towards Lisa and then shifted to James, who was now visibly tense. "What do you mean?" Lisa's voice trembled as she glanced between them, her heart sinking. She had a sinking feeling that whatever was about to unfold would shatter the fragile peace she had managed to build. "Let me introduce myself," the man continued, a smirk playing on his lips. "I'm Richard Calloway, and I'm here to expose the truth about James Turner." Gasps rippled through the crowd, and Lisa's stomach dropped. She felt as if she had been punched in the gut. "James Turner?" she echoed, her mind racing. "What does he have to do with this?" Richard took a step forward, reveling in the attention. "Oh, Lisa, do you not know? James Turner, the millionaire, the man who just days ago was pretending to be a homeless man for a beauty pageant? He's not just a pretender. He's also part of a scandal that has tarnished his family's name for years." Lisa's heart raced as she locked eyes with James, who now looked like a deer caught in headlights. The crowd murmured, whispers of disbelief and intrigue swirling around them. "What scandal?" she demanded, her voice rising above the chaos. "What are you talking about?" Richard grinned, clearly enjoying the drama. His family was involved in a major financial scandal, a scandal that left countless people destitute. His father is a criminal, and James, well, he's just trying to hide in the shadows of his family's disgrace. The words hung heavily in the air, and Lisa felt her heart shatter. Everything she had believed about James, everything she had felt for him, was suddenly at risk of being tainted by this revelation. She turned to him, searching for answers. "Is this true, James?" James stepped forward, his expression fierce yet vulnerable. "I had no idea about the scandal until recently. I was trying to escape that life, to find something real. I thought I could discover who I truly was without the weight of my family's reputation." "Escape?" Lisa echoed, her voice tinged with disbelief. "By pretending to be someone else? By lying to me?" "I never meant to hurt you, Lisa." James's voice was raw with emotion. "I wanted to show you who I could be without my wealth, without my name. Being Jake was the only way I felt I could approach you honestly." "But you weren't honest. You were pretending." Lisa felt tears stinging her eyes. "How can I trust you now?" Before James could respond, Richard interjected. "Let's not forget, dear audience, that he's still a Turner. How can you trust someone whose family has such a dark past? Don't you deserve better?" The crowd shifted, uncertainty rippling through them. Lisa's heart raced as she glanced around, realizing how many eyes were on her. The cheers she had received moments ago felt distant, replaced by a cacophony of doubt and judgment. She felt trapped between two worlds, one that held the warmth of connection and love, and another that threatened to unravel everything. I need time to think," Lisa finally managed to say, her voice trembling. She stepped back, feeling the weight of the moment pressing down on her like a thick fog. She needed space to breathe, to process the whirlwind of emotions and revelations. "Wait!" James called after her, desperation lacing his tone. "Please, just give me a chance to explain. I swear I didn't know about my family's past. I've been trying to move forward, to be someone I'm proud of." But Lisa couldn't hear him anymore. The emotions were too overwhelming. She turned and walked away, her heart heavy with conflicting feelings. As she reached the edge of the crowd, she glanced back one last time, catching James's pained expression. It was a moment frozen in time, a moment where everything hung in the balance, uncertain and fragile. As Lisa retreated, the atmosphere shifted. Whispers grew louder, fingers pointed, and Richard basked in the attention, a satisfied grin plastered across his face. But as Lisa disappeared from view, a mysterious figure emerged from the shadows, watching the unfolding drama with keen interest. James felt a sudden chill as he noticed the figure lurking at the back of the crowd. There was something about the way they moved, the intensity of their gaze. It was as if they held the key to a deeper conspiracy, one that threatened not only his relationship with Lisa, but also the very foundations of his identity. "Who are you?" James muttered under his breath, his heart racing. Just as the figure turned slightly, revealing a glimpse of a familiar face, the crowd erupted into chaos once more. Tension hung thick in the air, and the sense of impending danger loomed over them all. "James!" someone shouted, breaking through the noise. "What's going on? Is it true?" In that moment, James realized that the truth he had fought so hard to escape was catching up to him. He had come to this pageant seeking authenticity, seeking love, but now he was left standing on the precipice of ruin. The figure in the background seemed to sense his turmoil, and as they turned fully, James caught a look that sent a shiver down his spine. The night was far from over, and the revelations were just beginning to unfold.